Yo, what is up, Sex Speech Crazy Rabbit here, and today I'm going to do the impossible. I'm going to try to explain the origin storyline. Now, I've been looking around on YouTube and around on the forums, and no one's really been trying to tackle this storyline. No one's really been trying to say what's exactly happening. I mean, a lot of people are speculating, like, every now and then, but I haven't really seen anyone devote a lot of time into this. So I went and did a lot of research, and I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on what's exactly going on here, because I'm pretty sure no one is 100% sure what's going on in Origins, because this is confusing as hell. So I'm going to try to tackle it on my own. Now, if I get something wrong, if I mess up on something, please leave it in the comments. Let's get some theories and stuff going on here, because I'm pretty sure I might get something wrong, or you guys might think differently. So again, this is all just my opinion on what's going on. So let's get this shit started. So we're going to be looking at two different time frames here. We're going to be looking at the Origins time frame and the Zombies time frame as a whole. So everything from World of War, everything to Buried, and the endgame cutscene is going to sort of tie into both. But yeah, so this might get confusing. I'm going to try my best to not make it as confusing as hell, but if it gets a little confusing, I'm sorry, but this is a really confusing storyline. So first, let's start off with the endgame cutscene, then we'll head into Origins. So the endgame cutscene pretty much revealed that everything from World of War to Buried was all fake. None of that really happened, and it was all just pretty much Samantha and Eddie's imagination. The reason we do know this, and it's not just she's not just making it up for Origins, is because when she looks around the room, you see everything from previous maps. You see the Black Ops 2 characters, you see the older versions of Nikolai and Richtofen and Takio and stuff like that. You don't see the younger versions, you see the older versions, you see everything else from all previous maps. So everything from then on, everything from World of War to Buried was all pretty much Samantha and Eddie's imagination. Now, is Edward Richtofen? Sort of. Eddie was playing Edward Richtofen. That was his character in the game. So yeah, so try to keep that in mind. They're not the same person, but they are. You know, kind of understand me? So now let's dive into Origins. In Origins, it's confusing as hell, right? So we're going to try to make it a little less confusing. One of the things that's going to make it a little less confusing is think of it as a different dimension and an alternate reality. I'm going to let you guys listen to a radio right here, and in this radio, Maxis says that 115 is having an effect on the space and time continuum. So here you go.
Researching element 115 continues to yield unforeseen results. The conversion process creates localized energy fields which appear to function as portals, bringing forth objects of indeterminate origin. It is my hypothesis, however outlandish, that this transfer of matter may actually be occurring through space and time. I believe the answer may lay with the broken rune stones located at the mound. Perhaps channeling sufficient energy from the conversion generators to their location may prove fruitful.
I think we're inside the robot's head.
When the gateway is open,
115 is
the secrets of Agartha will be revealed.
An energy field appears to drag unknown objects into our reality. Is it possible that element 115 is disrupting the space-time continuum itself? How else could an ancient box created eons ago bring forth weapons from different eras, perhaps including even our own future? Further study is needed to understand this powerful and unpredictable.
Alright, so in that radio you hear Maxis talking about the space and time continuum and how 115 is having effects on it. So my best guess is that 115 is fucking things up so badly that it pretty much altered the reality and created a different timeline from the World of War one. So he pretty much skewed off the regular timeline, and now we went to Origins. That's why 115 is blue. That's why Edward Richtofen sawed off Maxis' brain and got it out of there. That's pretty much why everything you normally would happen in the regular storyline is sort of having different effects in the Origins storyline. So now we're going to back up and start to explain Origins slowly but surely. So in the beginning, and if you decode all the ciphers around the map and listen to all the radios, you can learn that Edward Richtofen's parents died, and someone took him in as a father figure. And maybe that someone was Maxis. That is my best guess, is that the someone that took him in as a father figure was Maxis. So Edward's parents died, and Maxis felt sorry for him or something like that. So he tried to take him in his own, and he sort of was a role model to Edward, and he probably introduced him to Group 935 and stuff. Or maybe Edward joined Group 935. And Maxis followed suit, because if you decode more ciphers, listen to some more radios, you can sort of see that Maxis was betraying Group 935. He really didn't want Edward to join it and be a part of it because he thought it was having negative effects on him. That's why in one of the, I believe it's the ciphers, you can hear Maxis says he was contacting the Allies, and he was wondering how, I'm assuming this is Maxis, I'm assuming all these decodings were Maxis. I'm pretty sure they are, but I'm not 100% sure. That's why Maxis, when he contacted the Allies, he was worried if Edward would feel negatively toward him because, Edward's sort of getting really in with Group 935. And again, you have to remember this is alternate dimension. That's why Maxis was trying to contact the Allies and not trying to be all part of Group 935, because when World War II rolls around, Maxis is a strong believer in the Nazi Party and Group 935, even though all that bullshit he says about trying to save the human race. Now it's all for Samantha. But yeah, so Maxis sort of took Edward in as his little child, and he tried to teach him to grow up to be good like that and stuff like that. But Edward slowly started to join Group 935 and all that other stuff. So who was Maxis having contact with the Allies? My best guess was with the Russians, of course. The Russians, Japan, and the U.S. That's how the U.S. knew that all this stuff was happening over here in France. Pretty sure I can't say the name of the words actually yet, but that's why U.S., Russia, and Japan set a soldier in to investigate all this stuff and see what was happening, because Maxis told them what was all going on. So that's how Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai all got to Origins. Now, what was happening with Edward and Maxis when the other group arrived at Origins? So Maxis was actually going insane, probably due to the effects of 115, and also Samantha was having contact with him in his head. Samantha was trying to talk to him, and Maxis, he doesn't have a daughter yet, because Samantha was not born during World War I. So he's like, what's going on? I keep hearing voices in my head, maybe I'm going crazy, and he's having all this other side effects of 115. So that is why Richtofen solves his brain out and takes it out, because he thinks, oh my god, this guy's going crazy, his body's going to go, let's at least preserve his mind, so that way, maybe so his genius can stay, or maybe he just really liked that his father figure was going to live again, so that way he wouldn't have to die. So that's probably why Richtofen sawed off his brain. So now let's get into the fact of why were the Germans actually in Paris. So not Paris, in France, my bad. So a long time ago, the Knights Templar, back in, I can't remember, it was the early 13th century, I want to say, 13th, 14th century, the Knights Templar were a pretty big deal. They were pretty much like the badasses of their day, and the king of France, was in debt with them because of the war that he had with Great Britain, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure, I haven't read up on this in a long time. So he was in debt to the Knights Templar, and instead of actually paying the debt, he pretty much just set out warrants for him, and he had them all killed and executed in France. So my best guess would be that the Knights Templar knew about some ancient power, because that's a lot of the rumors and myths with them, is that they knew all this like ancient stuff and they had a lot of power and stuff like that. So my best guess would be that they had some sort of power, and one of the Knights Templar, before he died, I think he put a curse on the King of France, so that might have something to do with like why there's zombies actually underneath of where the Germans are digging and everything. That's why they have all these powers. So maybe the Knights Templar knew about all this stuff and tried to hide it before they all died and they all became zombies. Maybe due to the effects of 115, or maybe due to the effects of whatever they were trying to hide, which could possibly be the stabs, or who knows. So the Germans heard about all this. They were trying to uncover this so that way they could win the war. They were trying to go down to wherever in France they are and dig up all this stuff and pretty much help them win the war. Well, when they uncovered all this, it pretty much wreaked havoc. All the purple-eyed zombies started attacking and pretty much just overran the Germans instantly. And all the other zombies came from the Germans testing with 115 and stuff like that, or maybe that when the Knights Templar were officially released and stuff like that, maybe that's when the other zombies started rising from the ground. But it could be one of those two things, but that's not really that important. So Germans were getting overrun. That's about the time that Dempsey and all them came in, and they met Richtofen, and that's when they all started fighting zombies together. So that's pretty much the storyline of Origins and what's sort of going on in the background. Now, again, we are not 100% sure if all this is true, and that might be confusing as hell what I just said, but basically, I'm going to quick overview. Richtofen's parents died. Maxis sort of took him in as a father figure. Richtofen was introduced to Group 935. Maxis sort of wanted to get away from Group 935. He contacted the Allies, told them what Group 935 was doing, and the Germans wanted to go get all these unearthly powers from the ground, get all these staves and stuff like that. And the deal with the staves is that Maxis could not find the original ones, so he had to recreate the ones. That is why Samantha's telling you to recreate the staves and stuff like that. She sort of knew what her father was doing. And the reason Maxis was doing all this stuff with the staves was pretty much because Samantha was going into his mind, telling him that she was trapped in Argarthon, that she wanted to be set free. And Maxis, she was pretty much just telling Maxis what to do, like, get the staves, and you need to do this. And that's why she always, like, when you're actually doing the Easter egg, she's like, you were so close to what my father has done. So, why was Samantha in the past? Maybe because after the events on Moon, in Samantha's imagination thing, right before it got skewed off, she was sent into the Agartha, or the Ether. Maybe that doesn't have maybe that can overview like all different time dimensions. So maybe in the Gertha or Ether, you can view like every single dimension, and you're not just stuck in one dimension. Who really knows? But yeah, so Maxis was trying to set Samantha free, because she was going into his mind, telling him all this stuff, and that was unsuccessful. So that's when the group from Origins comes in, and that's why you have to set her free. But why would Samantha be contacting him in the past? Who really knows? It's all part of the Origins storyline and the endgame, so maybe Samantha was just adding that in there to help the team. Who really knows? That's what the confusing part about this is the timelines. None of these timelines can add up, and we all know for a fact that Samantha was not born in World War I. She was born in World War II, or prior to World War II, I would like to say, and it's just none of these timelines really add up. I mean, it's confusing as hell, but that's basically the best I can give you for the origin storyline. And the main storyline basically stated that Samantha and Eddie, who plays Edward Richtofen, were friends, and they liked to play zombies together. So everything we always learned was a lie, and the end of it is the most interesting part. Samantha says, or Maxis says, "Samantha, come on down," and Samantha's like, "Okay, maybe next time, Eddie, you'll get your turn." And Samantha says something along the lines of, "My father has a plan for it all," or something like that. So my best guess is what we're going to get next is one of two things. One, they're going to tie this endgame cutscene to the actual beginning. Because remember how they were all saying the beginning is the end and stuff like that? So maybe this was actually the beginning of World of War. Maybe this was actually how it all started. Maybe Maxis wanted to take Samantha, prep her up on everything at Reese, and raise her to be a scientist just like he was. So maybe everything we just played wasn't actually fake. Maybe it was all real, but it was just a bunch of foreshadowing to what was actually going to happen. So let me rephrase that in a little plain English. The endgame cutscene was prior to World of War and everything. Maxis calls Samantha down. Maxis was still doing everything at Reese. He was still like doing all this technology. He was still working with zombies, and he noticed that Samantha had a fascination with zombies. So Maxis was taking Samantha to Reese. We even have radio stating that sometimes Samantha would come with him to Reese. So maybe he would show Samantha like, "Hey, look at these zombies," and he was probably prepping her to grow up to be a scientist just like he was, because you know she has such this fascination with zombies. So maybe that could be one of the possibilities, is that this was actually a prequel and everything else still originally happened. Or two, that this is all pretty much just the child's imagination. Everything from World of War was the child's imagination, and that we should all feel shitty because we wasted a lot of time of our lives. And the next Black Ops 3, whatever the hell it's going to be called, is actually going to be from Richtofen's point of view, which means that instead of Samantha telling the story like Samantha was the good one and Richtofen tried to kill her and stuff like that, maybe it'll be backwards, like Eddie's the good guy, Edward Richtofen's the good one, Samantha tries to do all these evil things and stuff like that, and Richtofen ends up saving the day. So who really knows? Those are all just a bunch of possibilities and theories, because this storyline's confusing as hell. The time references, a lot of stuff doesn't add up. I mean, it probably adds up if we spent 20 hours looking into this thing, but I'm doing my best to keep you guys informed of what I can do. So I'm probably going to be making a bunch more videos about the storyline once I learn new information and once I put a lot more time and effort into thinking about this. So yeah, I'm very curious to hear your guys' opinions on what's going on in Origins. It's confusing as hell, so yeah, hopefully this actually helped you guys get a little better understanding of what's going on. So if you guys could, please leave a like and subscribe. Peace.
Bye bye.